Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran. I've been hanging out in the alpha quite a bit and I have a lot of footage with 2 new dungeons and finally all the zones unleashed, and now we finally have a lot more instances from us to test classes in the alpha. Me and some guildies have been collecting a lot of data, and I cannot wait to show you some of the data when it comes to classes and how the design is going, what works, what doesn't, as that has been my priority on this channel. However, we do take a look at other things, like the amazing customization that has been added to the Worgen and the Draenei recently. The Draenei have been one of the older WoW races, and while they're not the first ones, I think these guys have gotten the least amount of love. They got an update in WoD, but they still look a little flat, and I feel like they're probably the one race, unlike the Lightforged Draenei, that looks kinda shoddy. The Worgen also are finally back in the alpha, and you'll be surprised just how many features you can customize with the Worgen. So let's take a look at some of the customizations in today's video. We'll take a look at the Draenei first. Off the bat, I was expecting for Draenei to kind of get more customization options, but I was really thinking the Blizzard would kind of double up everything that Lightforged get and add it to the Draenei. Maybe tattoos, maybe have that little symbol that pops up above their head but in blue instead of yellow, and really just to kind of mishmash the options between the two. Blizzard decided to approach Draenei with more or less how they've done with the other races on the alpha in terms of the changes. They gotten a couple new skin tones so you can kind of sort of resemble Kil'jaeden in some cases, but not quite red, more bluish tones. You also got new haircut options, and the new ones look good, but now the problem I think with the new haircuts is it makes some of the old haircuts look way too old. The new haircuts are not that different than older haircuts, but the textures used in the hair itself just looks more believable, like it's actual hair. While the old haircuts look kind of like very flat and plasticky, I guess, in a sense. So maybe that's just something that Blizzard can do to update older models. As per usual, we also got new facial hair, and again, I think the problem is a little bit the same. The new beards and the new facial hair options are good. They'll look great, and I actually enjoy this kind of dwarven-ish look that they have, the beads in the hair and kind of how it sits with the tentacles. But that makes the older hair facial options look worse in a sense, so maybe again that's just something Blizzard might have to adjust in the future, but the new additions really do look good. Now Blizzard decided to add tentacle options for Draenei. You can have one tentacle on your chin that just kind of swoops down, and depending on haircut option, you can actually sometimes see this tentacle and sometimes not. You can either have one single tentacle on your chin, or kind of tentacles in the back of your neck and kind of at the bottom of your jaw. I'm actually surprised how many tentacle options they give Draenei, because I don't really know how many people play Draenei solely for the tentacles. Usually tentacles kind of go with certain haircuts, but when you have just tentacles there chilling, and you could have haircuts that don't really match those tentacles, they kind of stand out, which is a weird look. But this is the only race in the game that has tentacles, so I guess it makes sense. You also can have jewelry on your Draenei, same thing for females, and a different size tail. For the males, the short tail looks funky. Honestly, I guess it's not bad, but I was hoping that males would have multiple tails. Like you have a little long tail, and then you should have an extra long tail, almost looking like a dragon-like tail. I think that would be really cool, but the short tail and long tail on the male Draenei looks alright. I really do hope some of the Lightforged Draenei male customizations, like the massive beards and the textures for those, really do make it to the male Draenei as well. I think some of that stuff would look pretty cool. Same thing can be said for the female Draenei. It doesn't look like Blizzard just wants to take the Lightforged Draenei features and just slap them on the Draenei. There are certain things like maybe a horn or two, like a combination of horns that is like the Lightforged, but for the most part, the Draenei are getting their own changes where if you were to play Draenei and then Lightforged Draenei, you will still have certain features of customization that are fairly different. The males and females both have 3 new skin tones that have this pinkish, dark blue, and then dark purple, which I think looks really good on them. And then the females, just like the males, have new haircuts, although some of the newer haircuts I think look good. Except maybe the bald one. The bald one really did feel weird at first, but then you realize that female Draenei have this like crown horn bump on their head, and that was really weird to take a look at, but interesting to see their anatomy. The female Draenei haircuts, I think, again, look much better texture-wise than some of the older counterparts. I really like the braids, and I really like the braid ponytail combo. I think it looks really, really good, but it just makes the older haircuts that much worse looking. So hopefully Blizzard takes a look at some of the older haircut options and maybe changes out some textures. Maybe it takes similar textures to what the new haircuts are getting and swaps it from the old ones, just so it can be more uniform or something along those lines. Maybe it could be something as up in the texture quality to a more high resolution, but the Draenei females definitely win on the hair. Then you also have different horn styles for the females, and I think there's one horn style that was taken from Lightforge, so your Draenei can really truly look like Yrel from back in Warlords of Draenor. At least when talking to my chat at the time of seeing these, they said you can now finally look like Yrel. So I'm guessing that's something you couldn't do. I mean, how many of you guys actually played Draenei? And then I really like the horns that are kind of like curled upwards, and now horns that are kind of looking forwards and looks like a menacing bull or a goat about to strike. And I think that looks great on Draenei, so then you can have different ways to kind of accent the character, and the horns really do the trick. Of course, with the females and the males, you do have some options with tentacles, but with females, they're more like jewelry. You can either make them thick or you can make them thin. And then there's the hair dress option too, to ornate yourself if you want to, very similar like the males. Maybe Blizzard will add more color options for like the headbands as well. The females get the better end of the tails, literally. You got the short tails and decorative, medium tails and decorative, and long tails and decorative. I was really hoping the Blizzard would make for males like an extra long tail, like something that drags on the floor. I can totally imagine a Draenei warrior charging an enemy, hitting them with an axe, and then whipping them with a tail off their feet, and then finishing off a foe. And then we have the Worgen customizations, and I think these guys probably got the most amount of love from developers. The Worgen look absolutely fantastic because not only do you customize one character, you customize two. Worgen will be able to customize both the wolf form as well as the human form. So if you're a huge fan of roleplay and being able to swap in wolf form and human form, or maybe have certain features like a scratched out eye as a human, but also same scratched out eye as a Worgen, then you could totally do that. Or you can flip them. The game doesn't really force any customizations on you because the human form and your wolf form can be completely different and nothing can match, or they can kind of symbolize one another, sorta. You also have the opportunity to play with the different fur colors on a Worgen, and depending on which face option you have the fur and the colors kind of match and fade in different ways, so you can truly customize the way your wolf looks. And I also believe that Blizzard added maybe 1 or 2 new hair options for the male Worgen, but to be honest, from the Worgen we have right now, you can't really see a lot of difference. A lot of it is usually braids or just tufts of fur, maybe tied together by something, or just kind of sitting there, and it's really hard to tell if there's really that much difference. With the beards, they added a couple new beards, but I think it's a similar thing. It's just a lot of these beards look more or less the same-ish, but it's cool that there are different options. So if you have, like, let's say, a human form that has a massive beard, the Worgen form can also have a massive beard that relates, or maybe a human is clean shaven but the Worgen has a beard, or flip that in reverse. It is really cool that Blizzard lets you customize a lot. Then you also have eye colors, and Worgen have the most amount of color choices, from the brightest orange, yellows, greens, blues, reds, showing you to look like a hunter or a mage, which is very similar to like what the undeads have for the eyes, which it actually could be the same. And then you also can have a blind alternative with one eye blind and the other full of color, or even both eyes blind. Then of course you have what a lot of the other races in the game have, just different types of iris color in terms of different customization that you have for your character. But Worgen actually have 2 types of iris. There's the normal iris, and then there's like a cat's eye iris. So then you have normal eyes, glowing eyes, cat's eyes, then different types of colors and different blindness components to it. So in terms of the eyes alone, I think it's going to be that much harder to find 2 Worgen that look identical, just by point to point. You might have the same fur, maybe even same like patterns, but your eyes will be somewhat different, your facial hair will be somewhat different, even your ears might be a little different. I think it's going to be super difficult to find 2 Worgen players if, let's say, you were to give the open beta and then let everybody customize the Worgen and then try to see if you can put them all together to find 2 players that are completely 100% identical. And what's cool as well is the fact that you have a lot of the customizations as a human. I don't think that the human customizations are exactly as much as the original human. There might be like a face or a hair option that might not be exactly the same, or some pieces might be left out, like a face preset or something, but you really do have majority, I would say at least majority similar presets in terms of the hair options and customizations as you would on a normal human character. So you kind of even can make yourself an idea of, hey, do I want to play a human and have all these customizations, or do I want to play Worgen and have double the customizations? And what's really cool is just if you are someone who likes to roleplay your character, like in a sense, I wanted to make a character, I made my Worgen, I give him a scar, certain color for eyes, I chose the color for the fur, and then decided to make a human. Like, what if that Worgen transformed into human? What would they look like? And I tried to recreate it as close as I could just to see how well would it work. I made a character's face that I'm super happy with. I tried to figure out, get it as close as I can to the Worgen form, and I think it looks absolutely great. To be able to customize your character as a human form and the Worgen form and kind of have it match or have it not match, just so many different customizations and combos that a single player can put together. And honestly, I haven't had this much fun hanging around on the character create screen in a very long while. The female Worgen seem to have exactly the same customizations as the males, or at least in terms of the number of customizations. Normally, female and male characters, you would have certain things that are different, like females have maybe extra jewelry, or I guess now females would have makeup, or other little small details like necklaces, while the males wouldn't, but they would have beards. For Worgen male and female, I mean, those are both dogs. So you'll have different types of hair, different types of fur, different types of patterns. Of course, then there's the eyes, and the glowing eyes, like the red, blue, purple, like those really bright colors look insane on female Worgen, in my opinion. It looks absolutely awesome, and I was glad I was able to make myself a polar bear. So the males and females will, on Worgen side, will look mostly the same, but you'll still have those differences in customizations in the human form, human side of the Worgen characters. Still, either way, I am pretty sure, and I didn't do the math behind it, didn't look at all the customizations available and compare and contrast against others, but I do think that Worgen might have the most amount of customizations out of all the races in the game, at least so far. Blizzard is yet to show us night elves, they're yet to do any gnomish customizations, maybe there will be a lot more customizations for undeads, orcs, trolls, and such. But I think right now Worgen probably have the most amount of sliders and things to mess with when it comes to deciding your character and how they look. And if you want to take the customization up a notch, you just have to play Worgen Druid, because now Druids will be able to choose their own forms. Right now in the alpha, last time I checked, only the Worgen had the option to change their customization for Druid forms. My Tauren character couldn't for whatever reason, but it looks like the Druid forms available right now in the alpha are still early. Now, there's a question if Blizzard will allow us to, let's say, use our artifact weapon appearances. Let's say you are a Druid player and you went out and you got the Feral Challenge mode set, the Bear Challenge mode set, you got the weapons for both Rest and Balance, but the Feral and Bear not only give you a different weapon, well, the weapon doesn't really look like much anyway, but the whole form looks fantastic. So what if you could be, let's say, like a Restoration Druid, but when you pop in a bear form, you're the big bear gorilla looking thing. Or when you pop in a cat form, you're the Star Kitty. Even though you're not in cat form all the time, that is technically a Druid form. If you're a Druid player, there's a good chance you've done the other specs. In Legion, for example, if you played, you've done the challenges and hidden achievements and hidden things and mage towers and such in order to unlock those skins. You didn't just play Restoration Druid for the sake of being a tree. So wouldn't it be cool if you've done those challenges to be able to play them even though you're not in that spec? I think it would be just great for customization. But it's still awesome that Blizzard is allowing players to choose the different forms without having to change your character's hair color or whatever you had to do back in the day. This is cool overall. And if you're a Druid and you're a Worgen, you'll definitely have the most amount of customizations to pick from. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see all of you in another one.